we are Leadership and Other Stuff. My podcast, the Brian Houston podcast, Leadership and Other Stuff. Always leave room for other stuff. I love doing this, actually. It's great to have the opportunity specifically to speak to leaders in every field of life, church leaders, business leaders, people who are leaders at school, leaders in whatever capacity, fathers who are leaders in their home, etc. So leadership and other stuff, it really applies to everybody. I've been a bit slack with the podcast. I love it. I love doing it. Just got crazy busy. So my resolve for 2026 is to be fully consistent with this podcast. And I want to speak today on, well, a prickly subject, rebuke, the beauty of rebuke, the power of rebuke. No one likes to be rebuked. And frankly, there's not many people who likes to be the giver of rebuke. Confrontation is never easy, and none of us want to be confronted with maybe things where we need to improve or change. So rebuke. This is what the Bible says, Proverbs 25 verse 12. Like an earring of gold and an ornament of fine gold is a wise rebuker. Not just a rebuker, a wise rebuker to an obedient ear. Two things specifically: wise rebuke and an obedient ear. You get those two in place, wisdom in the way someone challenges or rebukes, and wisdom when it comes to obedience, an obedient ear. Well, that takes a lot of stuff. It takes a commitment to rise above your own insecurity, your own oversensitivities, etc. In the New Living Translation, it says, to one who listens, valid criticism is like a gold earring or other gold jewelry. Wise criticism. Nobody likes criticism. I think in life, especially as leaders, our commitment to our addressing and dealing with accolade and criticism are important. Some people get taken out by accolade. They start taking it to heart. Their ego gets stroked. Other people get taken out by criticism. Well, here's the thing about rebuke. A wise rebuke to an obedient ear. Beautiful. If you can't receive a rebuke, you miss out on the gold. Because one who listens to valid criticism is like gold, like a gold earring. That's right. And it's a dynamic rebuke. It's a dynamic that needs to happen. We all need to improve and to increase in life. It never makes it easy. It definitely doesn't make it easy, but everyone needs feedback. I know just a few years ago, when everything was turning upside down in my life, a young guy, one of our fantastic campus pastors, Jerry is his name. I write about it in my upcoming autobiography. And Jerry came down the driveway. Young Jerry's a great guy. And so Jerry, he comes down and he starts challenging me. He starts quoting to me my own sermons. That's right. Various things he'd heard me say. He's quoting them back to me. And in a very, straightforward but gentle way, he rebuked me. And I received it because of the spirit that it came in. I must say, in that time, there's been others also who challenged me and rebuked me, but I don't think from a good spirit. And so I waited up and didn't receive it. But feedback is critical in any walk of life. Can you imagine if a sports person, a professional sports person, was never open to their coach challenging them, their manager challenging them? They would have no future. So how open are you to feedback? Remember that wise rebuke is like gold. That's what the Bible says. Don't miss out on the gold. And the reality is, leadership means leadership. So if you are a leader, you can't be a leader if you're not giving other people something to follow. You're only leader by title if you can never understand the importance of stretching other people, challenging other people, at times confronting other people. It's how we do it that really counts. But if you're going to be called a leader, you have to be a leader. And that means sometimes, that's right, being someone who knows the power of wise rebuke. Wise rebuke. In this political day and age, political correctness, wokeism, etc., just the word rebuke would cause some people to, almost manifest demons. Sadly, that's the world we live in. So many great principles are challenged by the mentality and the mindset of the day. Don't fall prey to it. It's just not worth it, because you will be limited if you don't understand the wonder of what the Proverbs, Solomon's wisdom, says. And so the inability to receive rebuke is possibly the thing most likely to halt your progress. You just won't listen. You can't be taught. That's a sad way to live your life. I can look back a long, long time, and one particular woman who was on our staff, she was the kind of person who was magnificent in the way she honoured upwards, honoured the leadership, honoured her bosses, but was absolutely crushing to people downwards, people who answered to her, put burdens on them that were too heavy to bear. And I can remember challenging her, but it was everyone else's fault. She just would not receive that she has a problem. It was everyone else's fault. People were jealous of her, etc., etc., etc. And do you know now, they're no longer at Hillsong, but now, decades on, the same thing has massively limited and shrunk her world. Can you take a rebuke, a wise rebuke? Do you understand the gold that's in it? And do you have an obedient ear? You see, if you're the receiver of rebuke, here's some thoughts. First, we've got to let honour lead our behaviour. If you honour your leadership, you genuinely honour your leadership, then you'll receive from your leadership. If you're not a person who honours, if you're not a person who understands the power of receptivity and out of honour, allowing someone to speak into your life, it'll always shrink you. It will always limit you. You've got to let honour lead your behaviour. And so you honour somebody, then receive from somebody. You honour them, you love them, you believe in them, you respect them. So let them speak into your life. That's the first thing. Let honour lead your behaviour. Are you a person who knows how to give honour where honour is due? Second, you simply have to refuse to take rebuke personally. It should never be given in a way that attacks someone personally, but you cannot take rebuke personally. And if you're oversensitive, that's almost impossible for you to just not take it personally when someone criticises. Criticism is a word with a negative connotation, but there is such a thing as constructive criticism, powerful criticism, and we need it. We need it. But if you take everything personally, you're oversensitive, a leader has to tiptoe around your personality again. It will be a great inhibitor. We need feedback. You need feedback. And sometimes feedback is not what you want to hear. And so, number three, a wise receiver, an obedient ear when it comes to rebuke, refuses to blame and cover. Oftentimes, someone, they think they're in trouble, and so they'll start pointing the finger. It wasn't me, it was that person. It wasn't da-da-da-da. It was this blaming and covering and ducking and weaving. If you're a man, be a man. Stand up, put your shoulders back. Receive wise rebuke. It's going to help you. It's going to grow you. It's going to stretch you. But if you're always projecting, it's someone else's fault. You're always blaming. There's reasons why. You're always covering. Well, you miss out on the beauty, on the gold that is in wise rebuke. Number four, refuse to lie. Over all my years, I know people, I don't think generally they were liars, but if they thought they were in trouble, they would lie. They would lie to protect themselves. And there are times when I actually know they were lying. I even had the proof that they were lying. But let's not be that person. Let's not try to protect ourselves, start lying and telling stories that simply aren't true. An obedient ear when it comes to a wise rebuke, the book of Proverbs says, is gold. And number five, an obedient ear when it comes to rebuke. You ponder it. You don't react. If you're a reactionary person, you react to everything, then you don't even give it time to pause and think about it. Selah, pause and think about that. When it comes to rebuke, think about it, pause, meditate on it. If, after you've thought it through and you haven't been just coming from a place of raw emotion and you're not just reacting, pause and think about it. If you believe it's unwarranted, then move on. But oftentimes you'll find, especially after the immediate emotion maybe of being challenged, you'll find I can be better at this. I can change. I can grow in this area of my life. Number 6, an obedient ear. Listen to it again. One who listens to valid criticism is like a gold earring or other gold jewelry. Listens to valid criticism. It's like gold. Or in the New King James, talks about a wise rebuker to an obedient ear. Number 6, meditate on the possibility that it's right, not the presumption that it's not. What's right? Well, maybe the way you're being challenged is actually right. Human nature sometimes, we immediately, out of defending ourselves, go to a presumption that they're not right. But maybe you can meditate on the possibility that they're right and that you're wrong, rather than just presuming straight up that it's not right. It couldn't be right. Number 7, an obedient ear when it comes to rebuke. Make the required change. Commit to not making the same mistakes again. I think those things are really important. All right. And so that's receiving rebuke. What about the person, the leader, who is giving rebuke? What does wisdom look like there? I think there's things we can consider. I've given 7 things about receiving rebuke. And so now here's some things about giving rebuke. Number 1, timing is everything. I think sometimes rebuke is the correct thing to happen. But you have to be sensitive to time. If I can think about scenarios straight after a big, let's say, conference night, and you saw something that needs addressing, the way someone didn't do something or the way, and straight after that meeting you could go and right there and right then you could bring a rebuke. And the problem is not the rebuke, but perhaps it's just not the right time. Sometimes just waiting, pausing, so that at the right time you are able to rebuke. Timing is everything. Second, I think as leaders we've got to give people room for mistakes. Got to make room for people to make mistakes. We learn through mistakes. To me, I never minded so much if someone made a mistake. What would upset me if they kept on making the same mistake? They didn't learn from it. They didn't grow from it. But if you are the giver of a rebuke, at least take into account that you have to give room to people. If you want to stretch them and grow them, help them to be all that God called them to be, you've got to give some room for people to make mistakes. Number 3, wise rebuke doesn't just look at the action. It tries to have enough discernment to look behind the action. This is what I saw, this is what I didn't like. But maybe I should consider this. I need to be more discerning about what's going on in that person's life, what's going on in that person's world. And so let's look beyond or behind the action. Let's look at the heart. Man looks at the outward appearance, but God looks at the heart. Sometimes what appears to be on the surface is not a real reflection of what's going on in a heart. Number 4, rebuke, never in public. In other words, you don't tell someone off, rebuke someone in front of their peers. Possibly any leader who's been a leader over a long, long period of time have made that mistake at some point. I sure have. But it's certainly not the wise way to bring rebuke, and it's not the best way to have the right response in the person that you're challenging. And so there's a time and a place for everything. There's a season, a time for every purpose. And in a meeting with a lot of people in it, calling someone out and rebuking them in front of everybody else, that's never wisdom. It simply is never wisdom. And so think about that. Number 5, rebuke. Wise rebuke to an obedient ear. Number 5, we've got to balance firmness with love when it comes to raising children, training children. Imagine if it was all just rebuke, discipline, no love. No, it only ever works if you have that right. Yes, there are times where you bring in firmness into a child's misbehavior, but it's never any question that you love them as well. And as a leader, if you can't balance firmness, sometimes speaking things that need to be spoken, saying things the way they need to be said, but if the people know you love them, and this is my experience, if someone knows you love them, they'll go to the end of the earth for you. Not only that, they'll let you speak into their life. But if there's no love, it's just all rebuke, challenge. This is not good enough, discipline, I think the best sports managers, best sports coaches, their players know that their coach loves them. And so all of a sudden it opens their hearts to let their coach improve them, grow them, help them to be who they can be. And so balance firmness and love. Number 6, I think the person who brings rebuke has to have earned the right. In other words, you've got runs on the board. If, as a young punk pastor, you decide to come in and you rebuke somebody, but you've got no credibility yet, but you watch someone who's decades on, they've built decades of credibility, decades of runs on the board, and so they have a platform where they can speak firmly into people's lives. But if you don't have any of those runs on the board, and you start trying to speak the same way as a seasoned, experienced mentor, well, frankly, it's not going to work for you. So you've got to allow credibility to grow. It's not automatic. And you can only really speak into other people's lives according to the level of the platform that you've built. Number 7, don't just threaten. We're talking about wise rebuke. Oftentimes, if you do that again, then this is going to happen. If you do that again, then I'm going to do this. If you're talking to a kid, to a child, and you say, you do that again, and I'm going to send you to your room, and they do it again. You say, don't do that. I told you I'll send you to your room. You keep threatening, and the reality is it doesn't build anything. What you're actually doing is saying, look, this behavior, I don't like it, but you're going to get away with it. So don't just threaten and threaten and threaten. If you say that there'll be a certain response, there'll be a certain result if someone behaves in a certain way, you've got to follow it through. You've got to follow it through, even as an example to other people. You have to follow it through. Number 8, wise rebuke. A wise rebuke to an obedient ear. Proverbs 25, verse 12. Well, wise rebuke will consider collateral damage. That's right. So There's been seasons in my leadership, especially at Hillsong Church, where there were things that needed to be challenged. But for me to do it right now, there would have been massive collateral damage, massive consequences. Perhaps this person has tremendous influence over a lot of people. So I got a pastor friend who, at a time, all of a sudden, the people who look after his pastoral care went crazy. Well, they're like, well, where's our seat on the front row? And when do we get our turn to preach? They were the pastoral care people. Maybe they didn't have a gift to preach, and no one ever guaranteed them a seat on the front row. So they went crazy. And so what did he do? He basically, bang, cut them off. It's an action that may have needed to happen, but the timing was important because pastoral care. It means they were at the funerals, they were in the hospitals, they were at the weddings. So they had built huge rapport with people. And so addressing it, it was a real problem, but addressing it just then, like that, straight up, it hurt him on a bigger scale. Whereas, I can honestly say that I've taken even up to 10 years to finally get to an action that needed to happen because of the greater good. Because to have dealt with it quicker might have been nicer for me, but there would have been huge fallout, huge collateral damage because of the impact and influence that that person had. Number 9, I'm talking about being a wise giver of rebuke. Number 9, and I mentioned this briefly, it can never be personal. When you belittle the person's personhood. And so there's a huge difference between saying, look, you need to change that. I'm not happy with that, and this is how I want you to do it. It's a huge difference between that and telling someone you're stupid. That was just stupid. You're stupid. How dumb can you be? Things like that. All of a sudden, you're making about them as a person. It crushes, it belittles, and there's no wisdom in that kind of rebuke at all. If you find yourself in some of these areas needing to change. You can't be the leader God designed you to be if you can't change. Leadership means at times having to be the giver of rebuke. But not all rebuke is wise rebuke. Number 10, I think it's obvious, it's Leadership 101, but got to talk to the person, not just about the person. If I start talking to everyone else about this person and what I don't like about them, but I'm not talking to the person themselves, well, that's just not good leadership, is it? So we're not just talking about a person, let's talk to the person. And again, that's a part of, if you like, the weight of leadership. At times, having to have the uncomfortable conversations. And finally, number 11, I'm talking about wise rebuke to an obedient ear. Proverbs 25, verse 12. Number 11, I think a wise rebuker understands the importance of moving on. That's right, not holding this person to this. And let the other person move on. Let them move on too. You see, I was actually just preaching a message today. I was just preaching a message on generosity. And the truth is that oftentimes the way we take on the mindset of Christ, and Jesus, he didn't count people's trespasses against them. Scripture teaches us that. And he didn't hold people to the worst 5 minutes of their lives. That's not the way he lived. And so with rebuke, if we keep coming back and we don't let someone move on, we literally have a free spirit towards them. We let them move on, and as a leader, I need to move on. I can't keep coming back to that and holding someone back to that point. They can't grow if that's what I do. So wise rebuke is one thing. Wise rebuke can be another thing. Being rebuked is one thing. I'm oversensitive, I'm reactionary, I get angry. An obedient ear, which is what the Bible teaches, the wisdom of Solomon teaches, an obedient ear doesn't just hear rebuke, it takes it on board, grows and changes. That's the only way. As a young pastor, let me just finish by telling you this little story. when I'm say young, I'm just married. And so the late 1970s, Bobby and I were in a little church, Assemblies of God Church in the south of Auckland in New Zealand. I was the youth leader. I was probably first year married. In fact, it's possible we were only still even engaged. But I got asked to preach. And, it was one of the first times I'd ever preached. And it was a small church, a couple of hundred people. I was nervous. And I get there, and the senior pastor said to me, "Where's your tie?" I just had an open neck shirt. He said, "Where's your tie?" I go, I don't have one on. He says, "Well, you need to go home and put a tie on." And you know what I did? I got in the car, I drove home, I put a tie on. I just did what I was asked to do. Did I think I needed a tie on that day? Not necessarily. But if you don't have an obedient ear, if you can't receive rebuke, you'll just never grow. That's just one little example. You can look at someone where they are now and not imagine there was a day when they were the person who had to be led by others and receive rebuke and so on. But you learn those lessons when you're young, and it'll release you into big, great things as God keeps opening the doors that he has prepared for you in life. So you be blessed. Thanks for joining me. I'm going to be consistent on these podcasts now, so I'll see you next time. Leadership and other stuff. You're welcome to subscribe there on YouTube. Be blessed. See you next time. Thank you.